We're back. Luxurious surrounds the Bloke in a Bar studio, and our Socceroo joins us back at the desk. Matt Jurman, how are you, buddy? Bondi, Bangkok. You've been around the place over the last couple of weeks.
Campbelltown, you know.
Campbelltown,
yeah.
yes. Sorry, the heartland. That's where I should have started.
Yeah, been everywhere, but it's good to be back here and to speak about Supercoach.
Fantastic. How was Thailand, by the way? You get to see any of the sites while you're over there quickly?
No, we're out in the outback.
Oh, really?
Like, not outback, but there was not much going on out there, so probably a tactical move to keep us away from things and concentrate on the game.
Central Bangkok is not the most pleasant place to get around, is it?
Yeah, it was about 40, 50 minutes from the actual city where things are going on, so didn't get to see much. We had a 4 o'clock leave the hotel as well after the game in the morning, so... Yeah, it was play the game and straight out there. And
has that affected how much Premier League you've actually been able to ingest over the time?
Yeah.
Like, it's been a lot of travel for you in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. I haven't been able to watch too many games live because we've had a lot of games as well, and you got to get your sleep in. It's very important. But, I've kept tabs on results, obviously, and my Supercoach team and...
Interesting head-to-head this week.
Yeah, there was a big head-to-head last weekend. I think we should talk about that.
Well, let's go to it. Go on. You've probably got the score up in front of you. So me and Matty were head-to-head this week. He leads me 2-0 in terms of our head-to-heads. This is the third time we've played this year. And we're sitting there. Okay, Matty's leading me by, what was it, 1-2 points heading into the Manchester United Everton. We're both Fernandez owners. I was a Fernandez captainer. So I think we figured it out that I needed 10 points. I needed Fernandez to score 10. He was projected to score 18.
Yep.
He did score 4. So, Matty Jurman, well done to you. Congratulations. The 91 points takes over my 86. It was a low-scoring week. None of the big boys really getting their licks in, other than Haaland, who scored 14 and was terrific back in goal-scoring form for Manchester City. But Arsenal, unless you had Ebereich Eze... Was he in your team somewhere, Matty?
He was, and luckily for you, he was on the bench.
At the end of things. So 26, highest scorer in the game, and relegated to the bench. But I'll tell you what, that score and that performance, I think is going to see him surely now.
Hopefully.
Mikel's got to get past the angst he had over him not tracking back in December to start him in games come February time. Particularly Arsenal needing goals and needing wins.
Well, he only really plays the derbies, so do you have any derbies coming up?
No, that's it. Rest of the season, done.
So, maybe... I mean, surely he's got to play in the next few games. Like, he's been in form. He's shown that he can score goals. He's in the right areas to get in those goal-scoring chances. And, Arsenal demolished Tottenham on the weekend, so...
Yeah. We'll start there in just a moment. You have managed, while you've been travelling, though, to use a few more of the trades. We haven't had you on the podcast in 2-3 weeks. Talk us through it, mate. You are really running on the smell of an oily rag at the moment in terms of what you can do for the final 11 game weeks of the year. What's going on?
Correct. But I do have one boost left.
Oh, great. So
fantastic. Look at the positives.
Yeah, fantastic.
So I can use all three in 1 week.
This will have to be changed, I think, for next year. I know this is game week, year one, but you have been so limited with what you can do in terms of trades. They are even more precious than in any other code of this game, I reckon.
Well, how many did you actually start with? I can't remember.
I think it was like 44 over 38 game weeks. That really is leaving you very, very tight over the course of a season where guys are going away on international duty.
Yeah.
You've got teams rotating in and out of form, Europe, cup competitions. I think it's a complaint we'll all share as players this year. As fun as it's been basically trading the stock market, you have really had to pick your moments. So you're down to 4. Five.
So, I used a few trades to get Fernandez back in. And I brought in Eze, who was like 3.5 mil, I think he was. So he's
value play.
Yeah, really dropped that value. And I thought, he was maybe going to get some game time in the next few games, but I didn't see him scoring 26. So that was a bit of a shock, but I'm happy with the price rise.
Yeah. No, and why wouldn't you be? I'll tell you what, you've held your position pretty solidly as well. 1,500th overall, down 100 since we last met, but with things fluctuating, I think that's a pretty fair effort. The 91 points this week's been fantastic. I'm sitting still just outside the top 4K, and I'm down to 9 trades, 4 boosts left, and I think most of them will be happening in game week 31, and whenever they reschedule that Manchester City game to from that week. What have you made of Arsenal while you've been away? They had the draw with Brentford where they were probably outplayed, were a little bit lucky to get away with a point, and then they throw away a 2-0 lead against Wolves in the second game of that game week, which was frustrating as someone who'd moved in players. But in terms of the way they've constructed their squad since then, I think everyone was expecting Gyökeres to be dropped. For the weekend, he wasn't, and then he produces probably his best performance in an Arsenal shirt. So where are you sitting in there?
Yeah, definitely his best game in an Arsenal shirt, I think. It's hard to argue that one, but I think those two results where they've dropped points, I think, the choking sort of started coming out again from other fans of other clubs, and I think it was important for them to show that they haven't exactly choked with that Tottenham game. And I don't know if the Arsenal were that good or Tottenham were just so bad. So it was hard to say. But I think Arsenal's next 3 games, they've got Chelsea this week, Brighton and Everton. They're games that they'll back themselves to wins. Even that Chelsea game, playing at home. And there's not that many games left where they really need to sort of. I mean, Man City are catching them as well, where they've got the extra game in hand. So if they win that, I think it's 2 points, right? Exactly, and then it's squeaky bum time, and then that's when you see if Arsenal are the real deal or not. But yeah, I think this weekend's game is a must win for them if they want to have any chance of winning the Premier League. From
a Supercoach perspective, how we set up our teams, I think this blank week in 31 is actually going to be really convenient because if you've managed your trades, you should be looking to move sort of one player a week out from where you've been to make sure you're in a spot for that. And then you can assess from there. It might be a little bit of a blessing in disguise, particularly as Arteta's starting to rotate his team. We talk about Eze and he's come back in. Gyökeres has held his spot. I think he'll hold that unless he really goes on a barren run now for 3 or 4 weeks. And Bukayo Saka's come in and been okay in terms of his performance. He hasn't scored big, didn't manage to get a goal against Wolves, but he started now those last 2 games after having the injury cloud sort of hanging over him. Is that the preferred sort of 3 you think he's going to be moving towards in an attacking sense?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, I think that's their starting, their best starting front 3. Obviously there's going to be a bit of rotation as well with the Champions League games and stuff like that coming up where they want to try and win as many competitions as possible. They're still in 3, I'm pretty sure. So the treble was still on the cards, which is, a massive thing. But at the same time, they could end up with nothing. So and that would be a disaster. That could be Arteta gone almost, So I think, I like your idea of sort of trading at least one of them out in the next few weeks. But at the same time, I still think they're going to do well in those games because they obviously need to win. So they need to play their strongest team and sort of, I'm looking at a few coming out in the next few weeks for sure. Otherwise, I'm going to have no team.
Yes, exactly. We'll get to that in a moment, just how you're going to juggle things. At the back, the complexion of the team's changed a little bit as well. So Saliba and Gabriel are back there and fit and starting week on week, which has been great. It'd be nice if they could throw a clean sheet in for owners at some point in the near future. Tamba has held down his spot. He got an assist against us against Spurs on the weekend, was fantastic. And this Ecuadorian kid, Hincapié, has taken Calafiore's spot. I talked a little bit about it with Steve Nikolovsky last week, but it means that he, for me now, is someone that you must move on because his price is still at a level where you can replace him with someone who's going to be a fairly high scorer for you. So that's an interesting watch. And Raya, he pulled out a fantastic save from Richarlison late in the game against Spurs on the weekend. He just looks... I don't know. This is not something that you should materially be letting affect whether you hold him for the rest of the year or not. But do you get the sense watching him at the moment, this is me as an observer, but as someone he looks panicked at different times. He looks like he's feeling the pressure of guiding Arsenal over the line. The Wolves' reaction to the second goal was just something I looked at as an onlooker and went, what is going on inside this guy's mind? Well, fantastic goalkeeper, but the stress is evident.
Well, it's, Arsenal haven't won it in that long.
Yeah.
The pressure's there. The fans are going to be onto them, especially when they drop points to teams that they should be winning against. And, I guess when you're a goalkeeper and you make a mistake, it's very evident to the world. So, you can see sometimes the pressure's definitely it hurts them more than when they're coping with it. When things are easy, they've got that buffer of maybe what was it, 5 to 8 points that they had a couple of games ago, and now it's coming down to 2 if Man City win. And I think you will see the players come out that they can handle the pressure, and the ones that can't.
We're just having a quick look through the available goalkeepers there at the moment. Dean Henderson is there for Crystal Palace. Gianluigi Donnarumma, who's come in and played really well for Manchester City over the last was superb against Newcastle on the weekend. And then for the risk takers, you've got the likes of Jordan Pickford, who's always scored well in these sorts of games for Everton, is sitting in there as well. Their run home is not the most difficult. They've got a couple of tricky fixtures. I wouldn't be bringing him in ahead of Newcastle away. Emi Martinez for Aston Villa, who have one of the better run-ins. And let's move there quickly before we get to Spurs and what we think is going to happen there. But some of the sides that have the best run-ins, Villa's is one that stands out to me as being really good. Wolves away this week, although they've looked more organised recently. I still think there's a good chance that Villa, for example, will be able to get the better of them. Chelsea, Man United away. That's a talking point for us as well. But once they get through that 3-game run, it goes West Ham, Forest, Sunderland, Fulham. That is a really good month heading into the final few games of the season. Should be targeting players like that. You're an owner of Morgan Rogers, if I'm correct, Matty. So I think that's definitely a hold through there. Liverpool's the other one that came to our attention with Tim Williams a couple of weeks ago, reiterated by Steve Nikolowski, and they're now in a run of 8 games where they don't face any team inside the top half of the table, starting with West Ham at home this weekend. From your viewings of them recently, Hugo Ekitike is the first one I want to ask you about, but then more broadly, Virgil van Dijk is starting to sneak back into most traded in territory amongst the top 5% of super coaches.
Yeah, I think I like Liverpool's run, and obviously they're very close to the other teams going for that top 4, and they need to get results. And I feel like they've sort of been a lot better in the last month or so. They've picked up results when they needed to, and the one on the weekend, 96 minute. I think it's a big one to sort of stay in touch with those other teams that are in the top 4 at the moment. Villa, quite a few points ahead of those 3 teams on the same, with Chelsea, Man United, and Liverpool. So I don't mind the Liverpool assets. Szoboszlai is one that I'm thinking about as well. Maybe even a trade for Rice, maybe.
Rice,
maybe, or Palmer. I think depending on which fixtures you like the best, you can sort of swing one of those and you can hold for the rest of the season.
I didn't have a response to Declan. Like, I just thought he was at the stage where he's been unmovable. I know he hasn't quite been as prolific recently, but that's interesting though. That's crossing your mind, and I guess the blank game work is part of that as well. Szoboszlai's been so consistent.
Good.
The fact that he's being moved in and playing right back and still having the amount of output as a midfielder has been
still
quite
scoring
remarkable.
goals as well.
Yeah,
like he's scoring important goals, assists.
Well, it seems to be the thing that Slot goes to when Liverpool are chasing a game is they'll move him into forward, midfield to push forward in the last few minutes. And Salah's contribution, I've seen a couple of people going, well, he could be one for the last 10 games of the season. I'm not sure I'm back to trusting him just yet. What have you made of him as a weekly watcher?
Salah, what's he on now? What value is he on now? Because
I'll get his price up. He was just under 8 mil when I last looked. Let's have it. He's just over 8 mil now. 8 on the dots. He's got a break even of 11 heading into this game against West Ham on the weekend.
Don't hate the idea. I think if he didn't burn you at the start of the season, like many of us, you could always go back there. But he hasn't really lit up the league since he's been back from international football. But at the same time, he could definitely get a few goals in these next few games against the weaker teams. Here's
a theoretical for you. So you've got, say, 8 mil on the, there to spend. You can go for Salah. We can go for the 4th highest scorer in the game so far this season, Igor Thiago, who every time we seem to write off, just comes up and continues to be consistent. I think I compared him to like a Wilfred body when we were sitting here a few months ago. And Brentford's running is not too bad at all, particularly the next 5 weeks. They go Burnley, Bournemouth, Wolves, Leeds, Everton. And I look at that and I go, find that 700K. Find that little bit extra to bump him up if you haven't already.
Yeah, I think Thiago's definitely a good trade-in, especially in these next 5-6 weeks. He could be someone that people sort of flock to keep for those games, and then you can always trade him out. But I mean, after that they've got Man United, Man City, and Liverpool in those fixtures. But I think you could genuinely hold him for the rest of the season. Like he's always amongst the goals, or assists, and Brentford are going for Europe as well.
There's no other striker producing as consistently. There hasn't been all season. Perhaps with the exception of Haaland, but even he's had his little drop-offs.
Yeah, he's had a drought.
Even when Igor doesn't score for a week or two. I did have one worry on the weekend just watching bits and pieces of that game against Brighton in the way that Jean-Paul Van Hecke was able to sort of go with him physically. But then I look at the teams that he's coming up against. Yes, Burnley are well organised, but he's exactly the sort of player that'll undo them. I think the same with Wolves. Bournemouth, we've seen how lethal Brentford have been when they've been offered spacing behind. I think they'll get that away from home against the Cherries. And, Leeds perhaps is one that I can see maybe a Joe Rodon doing a similar job on him. But out of those 3 games, I think he's a real chance to deliver over the next 4 weeks or so. Right, let's get to... just quickly before we go to most traded ins. Could Spurs go down? That's the question that's being asked around everywhere, and it's not one that's going to drag us into Supercoach areas, but it would be a story, I think, maybe not akin to Leicester winning the league, but certainly to a West Ham or a Newcastle going down, and probably bigger than those two. They're the ones I can remember over the last 20 years that have really shocked people. Spurs are a Champions League team, week in, week out, won the Europa League a couple of years ago under Ange. It would be a monumentally big collapse from them.
Yeah.
I'm struggling to even find the words to put together, Matty. So could it happen? 4-point buffer they got.
I think, that would be a big fall from grace for a team that expects their team to do so well. And to see where they are, 4 points gap. New coach come in, cops a 4-1 result straight away.
Changing the formation as well. Like he's gone, right, we're sticking to a 3. It's going to be this way. Romero's obviously got a bit of time out at the moment through his suspension, so they will get him back. But Dragusin particularly, to me, he doesn't look like a Premier League player. Well, and there's a number of those in that squad that I just look at and you're going, even though I rate you as a footballer, you are not performing to a level where you should be playing in this league at the moment.
Yeah, to be honest, it's definitely possible that they could go down, and that would be a disaster for the club, especially with the infrastructure that they have. It's come out recently that they don't spend big in the wage bill, but I think everyone knew that already. So, and that's why they never really attracted those players that they were always going for. And even if you've seen the podcast with Ange, where he was talking about the players that he wanted to bring in for this season, I think it was.
He basically named the 3 biggest transfers. He said, I wanted Semenyo, I wanted Gay, and I wanted one more.
Mbeumo.
Yeah, and look at them. 3 massive transfer fees. Yeah. And perhaps a year ago they wouldn't have been commanding quite as much as they did then. Yeah. So,
and they could be challenging right now if they brought those players in.
We are biased in here. We're evangelicals, and you, of course, playing under him, more so than me. But yeah.
But just looking at their fixtures, right, they do have some games where they definitely can win those, but they've also got Liverpool, Aston Villa, Chelsea. And then, the other games, realistically, they should be able to win. But at the same time, these teams that they got, they can also grab a result on their day. So, it's going to be tough. It's going to be an interesting watch to see how the season ends, because I think any of those sort of teams around that, Nottingham Forest and West Ham, they could really do anything on their day as well. Because they're fighting relegation. Everyone's got to. They've got to win. Got to win games. They've got to get results. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens every week.
The one caveat I'll put on it is I'm looking at their runs in now. Forest and West Ham, and they are significantly more difficult than Spurs.
Okay.
So when you're looking at that, that's the one caveat I put on all this, because I do think they are the lowest performing team at the moment. But then you balance that with they've had City, Manchester United, Newcastle have not been on a good run of form, and getting beaten by them at home was a really disappointing result. And Arsenal, United particularly have come into that game really in form. Arsenal needing to bounce back from what had been a disappointing week. So you can take that whichever way you want.
Yeah, I think Supercoach wise, you just would stay away from every player.
Exactly. Yeah, it's something I've brought in because I'm interested in it more than the fact that's going to affect you in a Supercoach way. Yeah. Hey, line up. Fulham, Crystal Palace, Liverpool players over the next 3 weeks, and then they meet Forest in a month's time as well, which should be interesting. So Liverpool players particularly over the next 3 weeks, I think are big targets for us as Supercoach players. Right, let's have a look at the most traded ins, and this is an interesting one. The man top of the list, 8.4 mil. He's dropped down in value a little bit for Fulham. Harry Wilson taking on Spurs this week at home at Craven Cottage. And in terms of value midfielders that potentially could be a bit of a point of difference for players at this stage in the season as well, I love him as an option, to the point where if I was a little bit more higher sitting in terms of trades, I would be well and truly thinking about a move from Phil Foden to him with some of the cash I've built up. But I've shooed Tim Williams away from Harry Wilson on this podcast about 6 weeks ago now. It's one of my great regrets amongst plenty this season. But what have you made of his form this year, Matt? He's been so consistent.
Yeah, Wilson, I love the idea of a trading for him.
Yeah.
I think he's been great this year, and he sort of kept his body right as well during that time, which is one of his issues before. We couldn't really depend on his body at times, So I think this year he's been great. I've enjoyed watching him play for Fulham, and I think if you're looking at a trade in around that 8.5 million value, I think he's a great trade in.
The reason for the drop off had been performances where he'd gone 6 against Manchester United, 3 against Everton, 2 against Manchester City, and then returned to form with another big score against Sunderland, but 14 on the weekend. So that explains the sort of price drop initially, and then he's managed to build that back up with his form again. And I think he topped out around 14.5 mil, which is pretty remarkable for a player that wasn't expected to be in conversations for England teams or anything like that at the start of the year. I think he's firmly amongst thoughts there now. Number 2 on the list is Igor Thiago, and we've spoken a little bit about him. Dominic Szoboszlai as well. Van Dijk. Just quickly on Liverpool's defence, you're in a place where you can trust that again, even with Konate back in the team, or not quite?
They do look a lot settled now. So, hopefully...
Which is strange because the personnel is the same.
Same, yeah. I don't know what it is, but I feel like now as a team, maybe they've got themselves, especially used of the new players that have come in, and sometimes it takes a whole 3/4 of a season to get used to them. And I know they haven't been in the back half, but they look a lot more balanced all over the team. They've hit their stripes now with what's his name, the midfielder. What's his name?
Who are we talking about?
The big money signing. I've just lost his name. Wirtz.
Yes.
I think he's been great especially the last month or two, where he's hit his straps a little bit, and I think Liverpool as a whole, I feel like you can trust them a little bit more, but that's just me being biased as well.
The output's matching the engine. No, I tend to agree. I think they've looked more settled in their shape. I don't know what's happened since AFCON. Like it seemed as though everything before that was geared towards, okay, can we get Salah on the ball? Okay, Salah's not in form. This isn't working. And then it's come back and it's looked a lot more integrated. Salah's sort of ducking in off the right, but not demanding the football as much. They've just looked a lot more fluid. I don't know if he works better with Ekitike than he was with any of the other options they had. He and Isak, where they had that sort of month or so where they were playing together. It just wasn't happening.
It didn't look good, and they weren't playing well together. And I think the chemistry wasn't there. Now Isak's been out injured, which is unfortunate for a big money signing because he hasn't really settled in at all. But the other guys have, and I feel like Salah's got on better with those.
And probably the uptick in Witz's form is a factor in that as well. You're
sure.
right to point that out. Let's have a look further down the list. Daniel Munoz is back. Crystal Palace playing Manchester United away this week. I'd suggest probably not the time to bring him in. I know they've dropped off a little bit, but his price has dropped, which is the reason that some are bringing him in. 9.1 mil, the Crystal Palace defender. I haven't been overly convinced by Palace over the last few weeks. The base stats haven't quite been the same for Munoz since he came back, but he has exploded with a 10 against Brighton, a 12 against Wolves, and you look at the Palace fixture, and sitting there in 2 weeks' time is Tottenham. So, but they do have a blank game week coming up as well. I'd say really, if you're looking to make an extreme move up, he's a high-risk signing at this stage of the season, coming back from injury.
Yeah, I think he was obviously very popular before his injury, and I feel like Palace back then were very different because the coach didn't say he was leaving,
and then tried to get himself sacked. Basically, he tried to get himself sacked by making comments about the chairman. Yeah. Then went at the fans a couple of weeks ago. Like, it's just strange situation.
Yeah, the club's gone upside down compared to the start of the season where everyone was really loving watching them play. Really, so. Yeah, I don't know. With Palace, I think I wouldn't suggest going towards them at the moment. I don't think they're settled as well as a whole club, as you just mentioned. So I'd stay away. I think you got to target the guys with good fixtures now, and anyone that you bring in, you're looking at keeping for the rest of the season, really. So if you see any tough fixtures coming up, I'd try and avoid those clubs.
The two I want to talk about because you own one of them, and our boss Timmy Williams does as well. So Matty Cash sitting there at 8.4 mil. I think with Villa's fixtures coming up, the fact that he's been so consistent for them and starting every week, and I think Senesi has been one of your great holds this year. There's been a couple of times where people have been pushing to move him on. You have held him, and you bore fruit from that over the course of the week and the course of the last 2-3 weeks, really.
Yeah, I think Senesi was always one that I was looking at holding, especially with, their fixtures aren't too bad with the end that they've got. I think you can sort of, put him in and out of the team, keep him on the bench when you're playing against the tougher teams. And I back him as a defender. I think he always picks up good defensive points as well, and someone that I'll probably end up holding for the rest of the season.
I think he's great in that spot as well because he's going to cover you in terms of the teams going through blank game weeks. I say that for the same reason about Matt Cash. And for those like me who have stocked up on those Arsenal defenders, it's been a fruitful way to get yourself to this point. But I think come game week 31, you're going to be looking for those guys that are going to be playing every single game week. And hopefully, in terms of Bournemouth, maybe missing out on having an FA Cup week skipped or something like that later down the track as well. So IDing these players is something we're going to be trying to do for you over the next couple of weeks. But you can put Senesi at the top of that list. Mark Gahey doesn't fall into the same category, 8.5 mil. And Alisson is there at 5.3. I would say, one, because of the price, and two, because Liverpool are not going to be going through a blank game week. So with him coming back into Liverpool's starting lineup, that's certainly a move I can see logic in at this stage in the season. Let's have a look at the most traded out. Marc Cucurella, who just blasted onto the scene. Yes, he was out, didn't play over the course of the weekends, but I'm expecting him to be back in the Chelsea team sooner rather than later, although the hamstring injury seems to be hanging around. I think this might be a case of him just being managed through that towards the end of the year rather than anything, unless I've missed some news before we've come on to do the podcast today, but I'll look that up quickly and get us across it.
You've got Cucurella, yeah?
Yeah.
If you're trading him out, who you bringing in?
Well, I'm probably going to one of your guys, to the Senesi or the Cash. They're the two. But
I don't have Cash.
Okay.
No.
Well, there you go. So maybe a Cash. But Chelsea's run, they got Arsenal, Villa. That's difficult. City, that's difficult. Newcastle coming to visit, I like a little bit better. I feel like I need to hold him until we get past sort of the game week blanks, because going from one of the guys who could be potential cover for me is not going to be a great idea heading into those, particularly with trades at such a premium at the moment. Just getting this news up about Cucurella. He's expected to be back over the course of the weekend, which is a promising sign there. Sorry, I've just lost my laptop as well. So we're having a ripping return to the studio today, Matty.
Play on.
That's it. Play on. Let me get back into, and now this is a good time for me to roll in the read because NRL Supercoach is just around the corner.
There you go.
$2 a week. scplaybook.com.au. Breakdowns of each individual team, all the positions, cheapies, guns, what you should be doing with all of them from Timmy Williams, Spy, all of the team there. Clem's on board. Matty's lending a hand every now and then as well as doing the work for us behind the desk today as well. So head to scplaybook.com.au. Deep dive articles. You've got the podcast coming out a couple of times every week. Beers and Break Evens is there as well with Guru, which I know is very, very popular for everyone getting deep into their Supercoach over the course of the next week or so. Right, I've padded for long enough. Let's have a look. I still haven't managed to get my document back up, Matty. Talk about something. Save me here for just a second while I get this up. I'm sorry, mate.
All right. Well, to be honest, I'm looking at the defenders now. If I was to trade Cucurella out, I don't mind that cash option. Tarkovsky's another one that's dropped a bit of value in the last month or two. And then, Van Dijk, you obviously need to put a bit of money in to get to. But I think I don't mind the Liverpool defenders.
Another one that's going to sort of cover that blank game week as well. Let's get to the next two listed here are Enzo Fernandez and João Pedro. João particularly, I think, is someone who's topped out after the goal on the weekend. If you did manage to bring him back in, Phil Foden at $6 million. What finally tipped you over the edge? Because I had him for the game where he managed to get back into the scorers list, and then again this week he's being rotated in and out. He's probably at the forefront of my thinking in terms of trades at the moment.
Yeah, I just I had enough of Pep Roulette and
moving away from City assets altogether.
Yeah, I need Fernandez in because he's so important, and since I brought him in, he hasn't done much.
Yeah, right.
But at the same time, I feel like, he's important for that Man United team. He's always going to play, and you can rely on him to sort of pick up points. Where Foden, you're just not sure what his role is at times. There's so many different options that they can have. Shirky and Semenyo and these guys, so... lost patience, and even with 5 trades left, I knew I had to make that trade. So I was quite confident with that.
Martin Zubimendi, some moved in for the double game week. I don't think there's any surprise about that. And David Raya, we've talked about a potential move to Allison there. Can you justify the extra $3 million on Gigi Donnarumma if you were going that way in the goalkeeper's spot?
Yeah, not really, to be honest.
I tend to agree.
Yeah, I couldn't go and spend that much on a keeper, especially with upgrading the value from Raya already. And he's the top goal scorer. I mean, the top point scorer for all goalkeepers. Yep. But at the same time, if you're going to have all those players out in game week, was it 31? I feel like a trade sideways sort of thing to Allison, who's got better fixtures, maybe is not a bad option.
Yeah, I like your thinking there. Right, and then Saka and Timber are both down the bottom there. Not too many coaches that have moved that way. I would urge you against that, given their performances over the course of the weekend. Right, trade plans, you are very clearly in dire straits, and I'm guessing, what's your approach now, Matty? Because you are so limited. Is it basically just hold it all for game week 31 and make your moves then, or is it making your moves either side of that? What's your thinking? Because there'll be a few people in a similar situation.
Yeah, I think staying up late and watching the team list is very important around this time of the year, and making sure that you have a full squad. I think it's going to be hard going into these game weeks, but at the same time, the guys that I've got, I'm pretty confident they'll be starting most games, especially as the important games come up. So I'll hold trades as much as I can, but at the same time, you got to sort of hit the values at the right time. Otherwise, you're going to miss out on guys, that you want. So for me, targeting Liverpool players will mean I'll have to pull the trigger at times.
Yeah. Can you make the call for it? Can you just run it through quickly? Who have you got in terms of Arsenal assets? Who have you got in terms of Manchester City assets? And then what's your goal for game week? How many do you want to be playing game week 31? How many do you think you can get there realistically with?
Okay, so I got Raya in goals, Gabriel, Timber, and Marc in defence, which is I'd have to change the formation.
That's
if
4
I
of your 5 there. Yep.
Yeah.
But you could still get by with the two defenders and a goalkeeper, right?
Yeah. Oh, not really, because I'll have
Well, here we go. So, move forward, right? Move forward for us.
And then I've got Rice, Shirky, and Eze in midfield, which if I do the 2 at the back, I won't be able to cope with that. So
you're down to about 9 starters at the moment.
And then I've got Haaland, obviously, up front.
Yep.
So,
okay. So you could get by with 8 starters on that week.
I could, yeah.
At the moment.
I could. And I think in that time between here and then, I'll trade at least 1 or 2 out and then keep maybe those trades.
So you still think you can get to that game week with 11 players starting there for you? Maybe 10. Is that 11 too greedy?
I may pull the trigger on one of them to get a Liverpool player in this weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, you're not too worried at all. Look at this guy. You've
got to be aggressive in this game.
You're the most easygoing guy I've ever met. Seriously. Right. Captaincy play. I'm... For the record, no trades for me this weekend either. I've got cover for Esteval, who's still got an injury cloud over him. I want to be absolutely certain on a trade up front before I go there. Although Igor Thiago is sitting there, I've got 3.5 mil in the bank. That could be a potential move for me. That's the one I'm thinking about. Midfield, want to see what's happening with Palmer. Want to see what's happening with Foden before making any moves there. And defensively... missed out with Cucurella on the weekends, but expecting him to be back in sooner rather than later at this stage. Captaincy plans this week. There is a chance for a loop, but you've got to be up late on Saturday. Everton part of the 2 a.m. slate on Sunday morning, And that means that the 2 fixtures happening before that, not plentiful players that are highly owned. Let's put it that way. Saturday morning at 7 a.m. is Wolves against Aston Villa. Maybe a chance to target a Morgan Rogers as a vice-captain there. And then Bournemouth versus Sunderland is the early kickoff on Saturday night. Matty, what are you thinking in terms of a VC first?
Yeah, VC could be Morgan Rogers, actually, against Wolves away. They're
in free swing.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And, it's quite early, so you can get up and watch it as well. Otherwise, it could be a VC on Ekatike, or a Man City player, probably a Haaland, and then you can put the captain on Fernandes, I guess.
Fernandes, you go him over Haaland, because that's the argument I'm wrangling over at the moment in terms of I'm not going to have a loop. It's just going to be one or the other, Haaland or Fernandes.
I think I like Man City against Leeds more, to be honest.
I tend to as well, even though United are at home.
Yeah.
I just think they're going to be able to give that team some trouble. And the way that, they were pretty solid against Villa. It took Tammy Abraham coming on late to get that, but they were forced to penalties in the cup against Birmingham, had the 2-2 draw against Chelsea. They just look like a team that you can get at the moment. I've still got the 4-0 against Arsenal in the back of my head as well, where I look at those big teams and they have been able to tot up scores. But from memory, earlier in the year when we said that, they did manage to keep Manchester City to a 3-2, and it was one of those big explosion games for Foden. So, who knows?
I think for me, I'll probably put the VC on either Morgan Rogers or Ekatike, and then into Haaland captain.
Yeah, I like that as a plan. Matty Jurman, nice to have you back, mate.
Good to be back.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much to all of you fitting us in there around your Supercoach everywhere else. Hopefully this is the first place you come. But if you don't, we appreciate your company. We'll be back next week. We've got more midweek rounds upcoming, so it'll be an early record for us next week ahead of games starting on Wednesday morning. So be aware, be ready, and be listening and watching when we come back. But for now, it's goodbye.